Hello everyone. Our team has been working diligently throughout the fall semester on Middle Georgia's current password policy. Today our team will be presenting our recommendations based on our research. MGA's password policy, a critique and proposition. The agenda we have set for the duration of the presentation will go through our objective, overview of the current policy, industry standards and regulations, recommendations, password lifecycle, SSO and MFA, training and awareness, benefits, and references.
The objective of this research paper is to review the existing password policy at Middle Georgia State University and recommends an improved new policy. In order to give the best possible recommendation on password security practices and provide a solution for designing a stronger password security policy, our team has analyzed several research papers and the USG handbooks on security and password. Several studies report that if password composition policies are too demanding, then users will adapt copying strategies that can reduce both security and the productivity. We have given direction to our work keeping this thing in mind. After going through available industry standards and USG Information Technology Handbook, we have drafted some changes to existing password policy. These changes are based upon the research done on various available standards and practices like FIDO standard, multi-factor authentication, and the single sign-on. Our university being the part of University System of Georgia's cluster in which USG set standards and guidelines for universities to follow, we found that password security practices listed in the policy of Middle Georgia University comply with the USG standard. So while recommending a new policy, we have kept in mind that we follow all regulatory practices and guidelines at the same time recommend better security password policy, keeping implementation costs to minimum. After thoroughly reviewing university's existing password policy, our team has observed some areas for further study like length of the characters in the password and what should be ideal frequency of changing the password. Current university policy recommends minimum length of password to be 8 characters long. Password should contain some specified letters and special characters. Also, in existing policy, the banner web application uses PIN number which consists of 6 numeric characters. Banner web PIN cannot meet the password complexity as outlined in the regular password restrictions. This simply means that user has to remember another 6-digit PIN to log into a banner web application. University recommends password to be changed every year. Current policy mention about periodic audits to ensure that passwords are changed at the appropriate time using this standard. In the current policy, onus is on unit heads to ensure that all staff and the faculty members are aware about the importance of these policies.
The number of security breaches have increased over the years, and the magnitudes of losses caused by these incidents have been huge. This has prompted various government agencies across the world to legislate on the categories of information that should be protected and the safeguards that need to be put in place. We reviewed some of the most impactful legislations that are currently in effect. The first is GDPR, or General Data Protection Regulation, which was created by the European Union for the protection of data belonging to all European nationals. The next is HIPAA, or the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, enacted by the US Congress to protect American consumers' identifying and confidential information. As the impact of security breaches increases and the public awareness and sensitivity towards their data increases, the penalties of failing to comply with these regulations are getting ever more expensive. Therefore, we do believe that any new information security policy must ensure compliance with all applicable regulations. The FIDO, or Fast ID Online Alliance, aims to create authentication mechanisms that are inherently more secure than those based on passwords only. The alliance consists of big names in the industry like Google, Microsoft, PayPal, etc. The alliance has come up with a few standard protocols like FIDO and FIDO2 to implement more secure authentication systems. The latest of the protocols, the FIDO2, has since formed the basis of the World Wide Web Consortium's efforts to finding more secure and flexible alternatives to passwords. We strongly recommend that MGA's next security policy be based on such standards like the FIDO2. We reviewed the University System of Georgia's IT handbook to look for recommendations on the next password policy. The handbook provides certain guidelines on aspects like duration of password validity, credential sharing across systems, etc. Based on our review of the current password policy and our research into the best practices related to having a robust security policy, we have come up with a few recommendations. We will go over these groupings in more detail in the upcoming slides, but at a high level, here they are. The first recommendations are around password lifecycle. We have identified some concerns regarding the existing constraints on creating and cycling passwords. Upon reviewing the best practices around these aspects, we have a few recommendations which we will discuss later. The next area of recommendation is single sign-on or SSO. Basically, SSO means requiring the user to log in once and then reusing the authenticated session across multiple systems the user might want to access, provided they are authorized to do so. Thus, users don't have to remember multiple credentials, and if they spend more time on one system, they won't encounter session timeouts in the other systems that they may have logged into. This greatly reduces the friction for users while navigating across multiple systems that need authentication. Since passwords alone have been proven to be inadequate in securing information, using a combination of factors that can trustfully identify a user is the next best thing. Multi-factor authentication or MFA implementations require the user to provide more than one forms of identity to authenticate them. That way, a potential attacker would have to hack multiple authentication systems in order to succeed in the attack. We also recommend all system users be made aware of potential threats, their implications, and the use of best practices to alleviate the risks. This includes user categories like students, faculty, system administrators, and any other user group. Such trainings need to be conducted periodically to imbibe and refresh the sense of importance on all new and experienced users. Repetition is the key. Now let's dive deeper into each of our recommendations.
Many best practices require regular password changes to protect your identity and private data against critical system threats. Changing your password avoids a number of dangers, including some that are less obvious, such as what happens to the passwords you have saved on computers you no longer own. The use of strong passwords are essential and should be at least 10 characters long. Passwords should change frequently, perhaps every few months. It will help prevent a hacker from stealing your personal data. Even if someone did acquire your password, they'd only have a few months to use their access for nefarious purposes. Therefore, system level users should change passwords every 90 days and other users 180 days, or their account will be disabled. An email reminder is a good secure password practice. Setting an email password expiration notification schedule will greatly increase both awareness and the likelihood that end users will actively change or update their passwords. Single sign on SSO and multi factor MFA both deal with password user authentication. SSO's concept is based on the idea of enabling the user to access all applications through a first sign-on. This login process is considered as a primary authentication because it allows a user to use one set of login credentials, such as name and password, to access multiple applications. Multi-factor authentication (MFA) uses several different factors to verify your identity and flag logins that are out of the ordinary. So if a person tries to authenticate under an unusual condition, It will secure data by requesting additional credentials, such as requiring the user to enter a code text to the user's phone. The multi-factor authentication process is the combination of different types of identity management factors, such as knowledge, possession, and inherence. Knowledge, to choose any three security questions. Possession, mobile phone or hardware keys. Inherence, fingerprint or facial recognition. Currently, our MGA's Banner Web application uses pins.
Any password policy won't bring complete security without proper user training and awareness. We emphasize that the best practices for implementing and having a successful password policy would entail mandatory training and awareness of the entire institution. Students, faculties, and the administrative staff should be made aware of the password and security policies. Unit heads should ensure that all the staff and faculty are aware of the importance of these policies. The Office of Technology Resources should use online and in-person trainings for this purpose. Also, to ensure constant adherence to the policy, the trainings should be required to be periodically repeated. The students should be mandated to take this training at the beginning of every course, while faculty and the administrative staff should repeat the trainings on an annual basis. We will have to educate users in setting up proper passwords as well as train them that when an account or password is suspected of being compromised, the user should change the password and then incident should be reported to the Office of Network Administration. Benefits: instead of signing on each MGA website separately with separate schemes, with this new policy's single sign-on implementation, users will have a better experience of signing at one single familiar place with single set of authentication scheme and policy. This new policy enhances security by bringing SSO along with multi-factor authentication as well as enhanced policy of stronger, more secure password and with most importantly, trained aware users. With this stronger policy, MJ's organizational assets, students' personal information, as well as faculty and staff accounts will be more secure. From the compliance point of view, any organization that stores data that can be classified as personal health information comes under the purview of Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act HIPAA regulations. HIPAA holds organizations responsible for protecting the data they store or use. Importantly, Middle Georgia University is a part of University System of Georgia USG cluster, in which USG state standard and guidelines for universities to follow, and its password policy sets out to establish a general standard to prohibit the exposure of personally identifiable information and references Federal Information Security Management Act. The password policy listed in the new password policy of Middle Georgia University complies with the USG standard.
We hope our research enables the management decide on improving the security of the university's information systems and hence information property. We believe security is a process and not a goal. Therefore, we finally recommend periodic audits of the new policy to ensure they continue to meet the security bar. The team is thankful to the management for this opportunity offered to us. Thank you for your time.